Today on the program, we are really happy to welcome Quincy artist David Wang to chat about himself, his background, his career, and especially about his exhibit at the Q Arts Gallery in Quincy Center, along with Alice Donaldson, called Roads Well Traveled. So, David, first of all, very nice to meet you.
Oh, likewise.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to learn a little bit more about yourself and your arts and this exhibit in particular. If you could first, let's take a little step back and tell me the David Wang story.
Okay, well, let's see, where did that begin? So I was born in China way back in the 70s. I know I'm dating myself here. And then I came to the US in the late 80s. Yeah, I came when I was very young, about 13, and I grew up in Texas basically. So I know that I came up to New England, but as far as art is concerned, I think all I can remember is just when I was very young, maybe even 4 or 5, I just enjoyed doodling a lot, and I think and I. Looking back, it's funny because my mom, and of all people, of course, always saved all those drawings and doodlings from way back. And I was looking, I was like, man, I wasn't good at all. I was like, they're terrible. But I think that's just it. I think with anything in life is not where you start. It's not how good you were, but how much you love it, how much you enjoy it. And so I think it's more throughout, like, say, elementary and junior high. It's just I just do it in class. Like I don't care if it's math or history or whatever. That's kind of what I do, and I laugh about it because I was like, how did I even graduate from all the schools if I was just really drawing the whole time? But I think I think that's life. You just sort of cope with it, and then you got better and better, and so yes, I was able to do my schoolwork while at the same time just really got better drawing. And also I think with anything in life, like cooking, and the more you do, you get better, and then the better you get, you enjoy it more. And so that's kind of how I've been doing it all my life. And then I was very fortunate because my parents are very supportive, even though they're not artists themselves. Like my dad's a nuclear physicist, and then he becomes a pastor. My mom is an engineer. My sister is a doctor. So no one in my family is really in, sort of like, it's not like in the family, but they're very supportive. And I think that made a huge difference because especially from an Asian family, I know it's a stereotype, but it's very sort of like academic, goal oriented. You have to do X, Y, and Z, and also being an artist. I mean, I think even in this country, I think people's like, oh, how are you going to make a living? And the joke, and even in the Chinese community, is joke is like artists are living on water and bananas. I was like,
yes, I think that transcends all cultures. Is that sentiment? Yeah.
Yeah, and that you're only famous when you're dead.
That's right.
Like Van Gogh, like he sold one painting in his lifetime, and now it's a shame. It shouldn't have to be like that. Then we'll go into more of it. Why do we do art, and what art means? But I think the most touching thing, and my dad always say it throughout his life, is like, one day when you graduate with an art degree, you can buy the water, and I'll pay for the bananas.
Very good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that degree. Where was your education?
So I went to Rhode Island School of Design, which is one of the top schools for arts in this country. I was, again, it was my parents, they're both Christians, so they believe God has a plan for my life. And the interesting thing is, throughout high school, even though I loved art and I joined, I was all kinds of competitions, in the city and everything, but I never just really thought it was something that's doable. And our schools are very expensive. They're private schools, I mean, believe it or not, University of Texas at that time, could you believe how much it costs for a semester? $1,000. I mean, that's just how cheap back then it is. So I was all ready to go to UT. I even got the dorm ready and all set up. and then last minute, we had this sort of invitation to like a portfolio day, which is all the major art schools in the country are showcasing and sort of like, you know, um, recruiting stuff. Basically, long story short, we were there. We weren't even registered. My dad took me there, and then I just sort of showed my work to people. And then this art school in LA, one of the top art schools, they saw my work and they're just so excited, and they're like, just come. We'll give you a full scholarship. And well, I was like, oh, okay. How am I going to say no to that? Because it's so expensive. We didn't think we can afford it. And my dad's very supportive. And that's how I end up going to art school and also end up coming up here because this window of opportunity, this door just opened. That's how I started. Yeah.
So you went to Los Angeles, or no? You went to Rhode Island.
I went to Los Angeles, and then I transferred up here to RISD in Rhode Island. Yeah.
So what was the work, David, that they were so excited about? Oil painting?
Well, this was when I was in high school, so I think it was majorly a lot of like drawing, like a lot of figure drawing, and also pastels. I don't know oils at that time. That's still far too advanced for someone who in high school student. It's a very difficult medium to control. So I was doing a lot of acrylic painting actually, which is great because that gives me a good background. But that's how it started. Yeah.
And what was it? What were the subject matters? What was it that inspired you from those, from those doodlings in grade school all the way up to high school? What were you drawing?
That's funny you brought it up. So actually, and being a boy, it's always interesting building model airplanes and war and World War II stuff and like that. So it's funny. I actually doodle a lot of airplanes and whatnot, and that's actually one of the top major subjects. And it's like aviation art, and also anything that's sort of military related. Funny that who would have known? Like 20 years later, I'll be doing all the portraits of the generals and the head of Pentagon, all that stuff. So I'm kind of glad it came full circle.
Yes, but that's a big switch, right? From airplane architecture to portraiture.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it again, I think a lot of these things are just sort of happen providential because it all seems like accident, but it really is sort of just you build up on your life experiences. So I think people, in art, it's like almost like people differentiate being, oh, you're a landscape painter, you paint people, whatever. I don't believe that because that's where I started. I started with landscape. I started with machines, and now I'm dedicated to painting portraits. But they're all the same. You watch, see something, you observe, unless you're doing an abstract painter like Picasso, which is a paint out of your mind, and which doesn't really matter. I mean, how do you say Picasso? He paints whatever out of his head. But I think with when you paint realism, I think it's really all about observation. And so I think observing a tree is just the same as observing a person. Now, it's tougher with a person because you have to make them look good. And from my experience too, you have to make them look good. Also, you have to make it look like them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're not happy. I mean, a tree is not going to get mad at you, but I think it's all the same because what painting does, like, why do you go to a museum to look at art, right? I mean, nowadays you have an iPhone, you can just do whatever you want, you can take pictures. Why do you have to? And I think it's the artist's job to, whatever is you're painting a tree or a person, is to make you slow down and stop and say, wow, what is so special about this tree? What message, what feelings of emotions that it conveys to me? And it's the same with a person. Otherwise, for me, is what, Joe, you can just take a bunch of photographs of yourself and not having me paint a portrait of you, and people. And like my job, for me, the most gratifying thing is when people look at that painting and they're like, for example, that night when unveiling of those portraits, those generals' portraits, there are several like family members or sons and daughters or grandchildren come up to me and say, "That's him. That's my dad. That's grandpa. it's like that's the essence, that's his whole life, because some of those people have already passed away. But when you look at that and they're like, that's him, that's without a doubt, that's not just look like him, but that's what he embodies. His character, his strength, and who he was as a human being, as a general, as a leader of men. So
Yeah, so you've evoked that emotion out of them through your work.
Yes, or at least that's my goal. Yeah.
Tell me about your journey to Quincy, David, and when that started and how that happened.
It was very interesting. Again, it's all happened by an accident. I was actually living downtown Boston for a while, and I was really sick of the commute. Well, because the Green Line, obviously, it's just, but forget about it. But Red Line, it's always like the fantasy, like Red Line is much faster. Well, now we know, but still, it was all providential because God had a plan. I came to Quincy. It's about 12 years ago, and I started renting, and then I ended up loving the place, and then I got married, and we bought a home here, and then this project with the city hall, also came to fruition, and now looking back, I was meant to be here, and I love it here. My daughter Anna was born here, just over a year ago, and she's the first generation. Both my wife are first generation immigrant. Mm-hmm. We came here when but my daughter is born here, so she can call Quincy her home. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about the work at the Q Arts Gallery right now. And this is actually it's a joint venture, right, with Alice Donaldson. How did that work?
Okay, so that also again is everything is just sort of serendipitous, just spontaneously happened. What happened is, I happened to walk into the gallery and I met the co-owner, Frank Sotoro, and he just, it was just great conversation. And then he said, "Oh, you should just come check it out." And long story short, they invited me to judge their annual arts fair. Along with Alice, and she was judging the photography and multimedia and section, and I was judging the oil and the drawing and the acrylic and section. So it was great. We really enjoy doing it, and it's funny because all our lives we've been submitting work to competition to be judged, and so it's really a lot of fun to have the table turn around and to judge other people as once. But I laugh about it. I just say, I just want to make sure I do. It's a very serious work because I want to make sure I do all the artists justice, because they put in their hours, they put in their effort, and every piece deserve my best attention, and if not, I'll have eggs and tomatoes thrown at me. Yeah. So.
It's called Roads Well Traveled. So
yeah.
Is there any meaning behind that?
Well, I think so, because I can both Alice and I travel around the world a lot. And she actually did a lot of photography in New Zealand and Australia. For people who comes to see, it's just breathtaking, because it's like, you watch a movie like Lord of the Rings, but to be there in person and to see those places. And I think the great thing about photography or art or any sort of art is they bring the world to you. Like if you can't be there, they bring it to you. And it's the same way, I think, from my experiences, I've been all around the world. I actually met my wife in Vienna. But I think it's more important is to do a lot of soul searching. Like if you look at my paintings, my portraits, it's all about seeing the soul, seeing that person, meeting different people. They could be, like all from someone who is a leader of a nation, or leader of men, in the military, or there could be someone, as a homeless person. I mean, it's all ranges of people. The people I met on Red Line, just anybody that I come in contact and that I feel like I want to capture that and share that with the world. So that I think it's like all these people I've painted throughout all the years I've met. Yeah.
Would you say that the pandemic that we're going through, or
Mm.
hopefully have gone through the worst of it at least,
Yeah.
impacted your work at all?
I think so. I think in a way, it's a blessing in disguise. As I've talked to other artists, I think in a way it forces you to slow down even further, and to really. I mean, in some ways, we're all caged in, and so you have less distractions. I think in a way, you kind of look at the bright side. Obviously, nobody likes to be cooped in all the time, but I think in a way, it's like with anything. I think it's like when people are confounded to the hospital and makes them rethink their lives. I think in that way, it's a positive, and obviously, I think it does have impact because you're less likely. Like I used to go to these portrait conventions, national portrait conventions with me other artists, but that wasn't happening because we have to do it online, and which is totally not the same. You know.
There's no replacing interpersonal
Yeah.
interaction. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself, David, being an art teacher, instructor, or what would your advice be to, an aspiring artist?
Absolutely. I think the best way, and I still believe the best way to learn is to teach.
Mm.
I was actually doing that even in college because when I was in art school, especially doing light drawing, which is drawing new models, and my professor was so impressed that he asked me to be his TA. So I was and actually it's funny, TA actually do a lot more hands-on teaching in ways, because we sort of really had to sort of help them correct the anatomy. But I think what really helps me is if I have to teach, I have to really learn. I have to really make sure I know what I'm talking about. So I think that really helps. That really pushes me to that level. And I think for any artist, I think is to really if I can say anything to help or to support them, is to never give up. I know it sounds kind of cliche, because in a lot of ways it's so easy to give up, and especially when you're doing something it's not instantly rewarding or gratifying. But I think it's a lifelong pursuit, and a lot of times, whether with life or with a painting, I think this is how I kind of describe a painting. It's really like life. Sometimes those paintings doesn't turn out exactly how you want it, and sometimes they're terrible. Like one of my most best paintings, and it's actually, long story short, it wasn't going well. It was actually doing terrible, and I almost thought about just to cover it up and whitewash it, and then so use it, recycle it to paint something else. Basically, that it came to that point, and my wife, she was very supportive, and she said, that's really great. That person, that the priest, we met him. It's great. It looks just like him. Don't throw it away. And then I went back, and now it's one of my centerpieces. And I think I learned from that experience is sometimes paintings are like life. It doesn't turn out the way you want it, and you look like it's not going anywhere. It's terrible, but if you keep it going at it will get better, and then it just comes out great.
So
Yeah.
is the old cliche, artists are their worst critics true?
Yes, and actually, and again, I don't want to sound, but I think it's kind of like life. It's like with everybody, the hardest person on ourselves is ourselves, without even realizing it. Like all the torment, we do it to ourselves, and I think we just have to learn how to be better judge and better be subjective with ourselves, like with everybody else, and not being obviously not lax, but not overly critical, so that we could really help ourselves and help other people. Otherwise, we all need to go see a shrink, right? I mean, and yeah, but I think art, it totally could be therapeutic, because then you could just be your own shrink, and who you are and what you are and what your own limitations.
Was there a particular point or a particular piece of work that you did that you said, "Oh, I'm pretty good at this. I might be able to actually, make a career out of this"?
Well, yes, I think, there's obviously several moments like that in life, where it's in high school or in college or later on. But I think one series really made me feel I was really touched, not necessarily making money, but I think is very quickly. Just when I had a 9 to 5 job. I was actually is in a 9 to 5 job for almost 20 years, because I want to be responsible, being age, well, being anybody, but just really make sure I take care of my family is. And then on my way to work every day at Park Street, I always end up meeting this homeless guy and called George, and and he was just always there, and really great guy, and I always give him a few dollars, and then I just say, George, you just something about you I really want to paint. It's just you will make a great model. Um, so we keep on talking about it, and then and never, it's always never in the right moment, because I'm either run to work or I forget my camera. So long story short, one day I finally just rang to say, George, let's just do it. During lunch, let's do it. Let me take a couple shot of you, and then and I want to paint you. And obviously I paid him. But long story short, we took a couple pictures from that, and I was all excited. And then a week later, I was gonna go back and at Park Street, and show him those pictures, and then his friends told me he passed away.
Oh, wow.
He had an overdose, and there were memorials and flowers over there at Park Street, and so it was a very moving experience. And actually, I did 3 portraits of him, and they're all going to be at this show. But what really touched me is those portraits are going to be the last thing, and also the only thing probably people will ever remember of him and his life. And that's when I realized what a difference I'm making with my art, and with the world, and with people, because even just images, we go to museums, we go to even the White House, or the Capitol Hill. What do we see? We see these paintings, and these are what we remember of people, and that's what I like and dedicate to portraiture. Is it really makes us appreciate all the people in our lives, what's special about them is special about us, that we will remember them from those images.
Yeah. Have you had interaction with his family since, David? Do you know?
No, unfortunately, because again, he was alone, and he had a son. I heard is still in another country. He was very alone, along with Park Street, but his family with all these other homeless people.
Yep.
And that was there. I was very touched. Like when I paid him for the modeling, and he immediately just took the money and gave it to somebody else and say, hey, you know what? Go get yourself a couple burgers and stuff like that. And so that meant just as important to me as I'm painting the president.
I can see why that would be a pivotal moment for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just what people meant to our lives.
Yeah, I would venture to think a lot of artists would hope to have a similar experience. Maybe not such tragic, results, but to have that impact on society and on a person.
Yeah, and it might sound small and everyday, but I think that's what making matters, and makes you what you do it's worthwhile, and it's not just for money, but I think it's also for your own gratification. Yeah.
So there will be a reception at the Q Arts Gallery. Let's see, on Veterans Day, right? Friday, November 11th, 5 to 8 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
And all welcome. Come for a drink, and all kinds of refreshments, and a great chat, and talk about art. Yeah. And hope to see you there, Joe.
You may. What's currently on your easel, David? What's next?
Thank you. My daughter Anna. I think that's just it. I think she changes. It's funny. Even I was looking at her pictures from 6 months ago. She's just keeps on growing and thriving and so exciting. And so I want to document that. So I'm really looking forward to that. If anything, my regret is I wish I'd done more of my family, my parents. My dad passed away earlier this year. It was very, very sad for me because he's been a pillar of support for me all my life. And I just wish I did more of him. So now I want to do more of my family. Yeah.
Well, you never know. Your daughter might be coming to you one day and saying, Dad, I want to be an artist.
Yeah. Well, at least I think my legacy is someday she gets to see my paintings, whether it's at City Hall or anywhere, and just to look at them and say, hey, my father did that. And I think that will be my greatest gift and my legacy to her.
Great to talk to you. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope folks come out and see the exhibit. And I wish you very good success in the future.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.